Welcome to today's episode of EB Soulful Conversations. I'm your host, Tanae. If you're someone who's seeking to grow closer to God while also focusing on personal growth, wellness, and creating a better lifestyle, then this podcast is definitely for you. Make sure to subscribe because each season I'll drop powerful episodes where we dive into how you can combine all of these elements to better understand who you are, how you become the person you are today, and how you can start seeing yourself the way that God sees you. All of this is about stepping into a life of purpose. So if that resonates with you, go ahead and hit that subscribe button because I'm so excited to have you on this journey with me. Now, today we're going to be talking about setting boundaries, whether it's with a family, friends, or even yourself. Having boundaries is the key to protecting your peace and living a life that honors your needs. So if you've been feeling drained or overwhelmed, then this episode is going to help you set some clear boundaries. So let's go ahead and get to it. The first thing that we're going to discuss today is what exactly are boundaries? And I'll simply put it like this. Boundaries are the limits you set to protect your time, your energy, and your well-being. It's saying no when you need to, and it's prioritizing your own needs without even feeling guilty about it. Boundaries are a form of self-respect, and they are absolutely necessary, especially for healthy relationships. Without them, you'll end up giving too much of yourself. You'll lose sight on what matters most to you. So it's important that we have boundaries. A lot of times we avoid setting boundaries because we're afraid of disappointing people or making them upset. But the truth is, you can't pour from an empty cup. And I've said that before. You have to be filled because if you're a type of person that don't have boundaries, you're going to be empty. And you're going to be using little that you already have of yourself. And you don't want to do that. You have to take care of yourself first. And healthy boundaries are the way to do that. So let's move further. And let's talk about how setting boundaries aren't about being harsh or being selfish. They're about knowing your limits and respecting yourself enough to say, this is what I need. And it's not just about protecting yourself from others. It's also about protecting yourself from yourself. Sometimes we can overextend ourselves because we feel like we have to prove something. We feel like we'll feel guilty, honestly, if we don't give, and do what we're used to. And setting boundaries help us to avoid that burnout and help us to avoid resentment, not just towards others, but towards ourselves as well. And if we break this down a little more, let's discuss why are boundaries so important, especially in different areas of our lives. The truth is we wear so many hats. We're partners, we're friends, employees, we're children, we have children. Like, there's so much more to us. And in each of these roles, it comes with its own sets of responsibilities, its own expectation. And this is the thing about it. If we don't have boundaries in place, we start to lose our sense of self. So let's talk about that. And we're going to talk about it in a way to view it in these different areas. So we could start with relationships. If you're in a romantic relationship, you want to set boundaries because it's going to ensure that you both are giving and receiving respect. For example, in a romantic relationship, it's about saying, I need my alone time without feeling like that's a rejection of the relationship. It's about being clear on what kind of communication you need, whether it's space after an argument or time to recharge. This creates a balance between the both of you where the partners can thrive as individuals while also still being connected as a couple. Even when you look at the perspective of a friendship, boundaries are still important. Maybe if you had a friend who always needs something from you, they want you to drop everything to be there for them. But what happens when you're the one in need, when you're the one who needs the support? So setting a boundary means being honest about what you can give without sacrificing your own needs. And real friends will understand this. A true connection isn't about constantly being available. It's about respecting each other's time, each other's energy, and limitation. And it doesn't stop with our partners. It doesn't stop with our friends. Setting boundaries with family is just as important. You may have loved ones in your family that you are close with, but sometimes they can be demanding or intrusive. And you have to communicate what's okay and what's not okay. It could be as simple as telling them that you don't want to engage in certain conversations, especially when it involves your business and they want to pry or something like that. Or maybe it's about setting time limits on their visits. These boundaries aren't about cutting them off. They're about creating a relationship that honors both your needs and theirs. Now, if we talk about work is a place where many of us struggle to set boundaries. And we've all been there, working late, answering emails on weekends, taking on more than we can handle, taking work home because we're afraid of being seen unprofessional or lazy. For real, setting boundaries at work is essential for your mental and your emotional well-being. You don't need to be available 24/7 to prove your worth or to prove your work. Start by identifying your work hours. If you work 9 to 5, work 9 to 5. Don't let your job bleed into your personal life. Be clear with your coworkers. Be clear with your boss about when you're available and when you're able and when you're off the clock. And if you're feeling overwhelmed, don't be afraid to speak up. It's okay to ask for help or delegate tasks when your plate is full. Your well-being matters just as much as your productivity. All right, so now that we understand why boundaries are so important, let's talk about how to actually set and maintain them. Because setting boundaries is one thing, but sticking to them is another. It takes practice, and it's not always easy. Don't worry, I'm here to walk you through it. First, get a clear understanding on your needs. This is where self-awareness comes in. What's draining you? What are you tolerating that's causing you stress or resentment? Once you know what your limits are, you can start setting boundaries that align with your well-being. Okay? Next, it's about communication. And no, you don't have to apologize for setting boundaries. You're not being rude. You got to remember, you're not being rude. You're not being selfish. You are just honoring yourself. And you can say something like, I'm not available this weekend. I'm busy. I need to recharge. Or I can't take on that extra project right now, but I do appreciate you thinking about me. I mean, it's okay to be firm. Just be kind. There's no need to over-explain anything. Another thing is, and one of the hardest parts about boundaries is maintaining them. People will test you, and it might feel uncomfortable at first. You might even doubt yourself, but consistency is key. The more you stand firm in your boundaries, the easier it becomes, and the more people will respect them. Another thing you have to be prepared for is pushback. Sometimes setting boundaries, it will ruffle some feathers. Some people might feel hurt. They might get upset, especially if they're used to you saying yes all the time. But remember, their discomfort is not your responsibility. You are not required to sacrifice your peace for the sake of their comfort. If they truly respect you, then they will eventually understand the importance of your boundaries. So I want to leave with you this thought today. Boundaries are about self-care, and you deserve to take care of yourself. I want you to think about one area in your life where you need to set boundaries and do it. You got to remember, be clear on your needs. You got to communicate clearly and firmly. Stay consistent, but also be prepared for pushback. No matter what, you are not required to sacrifice your peace for the sake of somebody else's comfort. So I thank you so much for tuning in to EB Soulful Conversations. If this episode helped you, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. Be sure to subscribe, leave a review if you found this episode meaningful. Also, keep in mind you can be kind and loving while still protecting your peace. Until next time, stay strong, stay peaceful, and stay soulful.